Hello, welcome to a new series here on my channel called X-Men Classics. Now I know Mike Spider-Slayer is doing a similar series on Old School and on his channel Comic Corner 2.0. I decided, well, why not? Why not do my own? Though this one I'm going to do like the early issues of the Uncanny X-Men series. Now some of you probably noticing that my background has changed again. The first time in a few weeks. I'm actually back at home. I'm no longer at my brother's house. So let's not waste any more time. Let's dig into the very first issue of the Uncanny X-Men series in the X-Men #1, where everybody in this cover makes the first appearance in this very issue. Which on this cover we have Angel, Beast, Marvel Girl, though Xavier is not on the cover, but Xavier does make his first appearance in this issue. Cyclops, Iceman, and Magneto. They all make their appearances in this very issue. But this issue also has the first appearance of the term mutants, the Xavier Institute, though the name has changed once over the years. Used to be the Xavier School for Higher Learn for gifted youngsters. Then they changed to the Xavier School for Higher Learning years later. And plus, there was this recurring joke for years about the school being attacked or blown up. Heck, it's even happened in movies as well. This first issue is simply, well, I should also mention there is a series of Spotlight books, Spotlight backup features from later issues when Roy Thomas took over the book. After the creative team, which I'm going to ask in a minute, or it takes place before this very issue, but since this is the very first issue of the series, I'm starting off here. Now, the book is done by the awesome creative duo of Stan the Man Lee and artwork, and he does the writing. I think he also edits this book as well. The artwork is done by Jack the King Kirby, and the inking is done by Paul Ram. I have no idea who this guy is, but the inking is actually pretty good. Now the comic opens up with Xavier just sitting in the room by himself, basically, and he's calling the X-Men to order. And then here comes everybody basically calling everybody like Cyclops, Angel, Iceman, and Beast. And in case you're wondering, Beast in the 60s looked like this. No blue fur. That doesn't come until much later. Not until his Amazing Adventures, which we'll get to that somewhere down the line. And they all come in, and Angel and I think it's Cyclops just adjusts Xavier's lazy boy chair. I'm not sure what it was called back in the 60s, but I think it was a lazy boy chair. And Beast and Iceman trying to show him a new move. And I know I'm kind of spoiling what's happening in this book, but this book is over 50 years old. So get this trade and you'll be able to read this. Basically, tries a new trick, and he ends up just freezing his arm, and then they try to fight. And Xavier tells him to knock it off because, well, actually it's not Xavier. It's Angel's one to call it off because they don't want to be fighting during class. So they instead start their class, which begins like training like Beast being hung upside down, like going like this little rod spin like crazy. Basically, all the X-Men go through different training, go through their forms of training. First is Beast, then it's Angel, then it's Iceman does not go through any training. Xavier just tells whatever he wants, and he decides just to put on a hat. Of course, this is when his form looked like this, looked like an actress now before it actually came smooth. That actually came later. He just think he was a snowman, and Beast was a volleyball with him, stuff like that. The last one to actually get a chance to do anything is Cyclops. He's the last person to get trained. You actually get chances, and they both Jack the King Kirby and Stan Lee give a very well description of Cyclops' visor. By the way, this is the very first visor that Cyclops ever had. He goes through at least several of them over the years. And he plants Beast in the wall, tells him to think his Beast is his enemy. And he attacks Iceman, and then everybody attacks Cyclops, and then tells him to stop. And then he says, "Oh, an attractive young lady has just come up to the door." And He, of course, is speaking in most of the book up until this particular page. This is only page 7 of this issue. He spends most of the issue speaking to the X-Men telepathically. Yes. But this particular page, he starts speaking like normal. And who's the attractive young lady? Why, it's Jean Grey. Yes, Jean Grey. Heck, they even thought that she was a doll. And also, basically, Xavier introduces the 4 men, even introduces their real names, like Hank McCoy, the Beast, Bobby Drake, Iceman, Slim Summers, even though he's usually called Scott Summers. Slim Summers was basically, he was usually called Slim as a nickname because of how skinny he was. This is why I think his name is Scott. And Warren Warrington III. Now, there is an explanation of why he is called that. Not just because he's named after his father. His father insisted that anytime he introduced himself as Warren Warrington III. That's the only reason why. And with also this issue, Jean Grey decides to go under the name Marvel Girl. Yes, Marvel Girl. And they basically introduce themselves to them. And Cyclops brings up a chair to her. Now, here's the thing. All 4 of these guys have got the hots for her. Though, I'm not going to get into what Bendis did with Iceman currently right now. But all 4 of them got the hots for her. But everyone knows that Cyclops ends with Jean, despite the fact now Jean was briefly dating Beast. And basically, so her only ability at this point is just telekinesis. She can move stuff with her mind. That's all she can do. But she can't read minds at the moment. That comes later. That's in case anybody is asking. She shows off her powers. Like, here's an example of what her powers does. And this is when Xavier brings up the whole thing with the mutants, stuff like that. Not the whole thing of Hate and Fear. That comes later. He says that the only reason why he's confined to a chair, well, not a wheelchair at this point, initially a wheelchair, because of a childhood accident. Though it was later retcon, it was actually an alien did it to him. Yeah, retcons. Yep. That's not a thing that's happened like the last 10 years. This has been happening since the 70s. And Beast tries to move on Jean, and heck, he even tries to basically plant a kiss on her cheek. I mean, I get how these guys are feeling. Jean Grey is smoking hot. She's been smoking hot for years. Heck, she's still hot. Yeah. And she shows up more powers, picks up Beast, swings him around, and lands him on a freaking couch. And it's at this point, 11 pages in, we get introduced to quite possibly one of the greatest Marvel villains and one of the greatest Marvel anti-heroes of all time in the form of Magneto. Now, I know Magneto is currently leading his own team of X-Men in the current volume of the X-Men. This is the first volume, mind you. The one that started in the 60s, not the one that started just last month. Okay? And his plan is like his philosophy is a lot different than Xavier's. Now, him and Xavier both have similar philosophies. They both believe that mutants and humans should coexist. They both believe that, but Magneto believes mutants should be the rulers of the world. That is how they coexist. I mean, it's a similar ideology, but despite the fact that Magneto does not like Xavier's methods, he does have a lot of respect for him. That's later revealed in later issues, but it's not revealed early on, but basically, Magneto's plan is to steal some missiles from the Cape Citadel. It's a place that only appears in this issue, and it reappears many years later in the crossover event Battle for the Atom. That's when the area finally returns. They plan to steal some missiles, and he even launched a threat. He then attacks Cape Citadel, first by taking out a turret gun. That's what I call these things. These turret guns. He takes out a tank, and there's one guy Sound the alarm. Condition red. Alert the Pentagon. John, look up in the sky. Is it Superman? Nope. It's this. Magneto spells a message in bullets. He says, surrender the base or I'll take it by force. And he even signs his name too, which I thought that was really, really nice. He's like, who, Magneto? Who, what is Magneto? And I think, and they don't initially believe it at first, but, in case you're wondering, why is his cape so short? That's how Jack Kirby drew it. You know, years later, when people see him when he has his cape, it actually goes to his feet. Now, it doesn't stop, like, at his butt. Like, it actually goes on to his feet. And, something I should also mention, though. Magneto one time referred to himself as the second most powerful telepath on the planet, despite the fact he has no telepathic powers. And he just walks and he leaves his base of operations. It's never fully explained exactly where this is. Not even Stan Lee's brought up where the heck this is. It's just some place. Basically, I think it's just Magneto's first lair that he had by himself. And he just takes one of the missiles, launches them off a submarine. Then he just walks onto the base like he owns the place. Uses his powers. He doesn't even move his hands at all. He just has this like magnetic shield and just bounces these soldiers off of him. And he tells them to stop. And he's like, nope. I'm not listening. Yep. He just prounces around, launches his magnetic shield. And then it cuts later. And then meanwhile, at the Xavier Institute, Jean Grey is putting on her costume. And the boys, well, 3 of them anyways, basically it's just Beast, Archangel, well, Angel at this point, he's like calling Archangel here. It's just Beast, Angel, and Iceman are peeping Toms. Yeah, they peek out there butt naked. Our heroes, who are, with the exception of Cyclops, our male heroes are peeping Toms. Though I don't know I'm sure that was the term even for the 60s. And she berated her for it. And then and I thought this is basically Stan Lee's writing at best when it comes to basically having Xavier summon the X-Men. He says, "Attention X-Men, this is Professor Xavier. Return to my study immediately. You have 15 seconds. No excuses will be tolerated." Now, if they were adults, he would understand if they're running late, but they have to hurry. But the whole thing of says you have 15 seconds or no excuses will be tolerated? Yeah, they're students, I get that, but yep. And they go to this study and he informs them of the situation that what's happening in the previous pages. Now, I don't mind this style of storytelling. Now, I know for a fact people didn't like this in Thunderball, but it just happened less than a couple pages. He just basically what Xavier has done. He's basically brought him up to speed. What people have been reading in this book for the past 1, 2, 3, 4, the past 5 pages. He brings up basic what's happened previous 5 pages. He brings up to speed really quickly, and he says that Magneto was the first of the E-mutants, despite the fact now he's a good guy, anyways. And so they just changed their costumes, and just now somebody thinking though maybe they'll race over there in their Blackbird. Doesn't exist at this point. Nope. First, they drive over in Xavier's car. I am not kidding about this. They use this car a lot in a lot of the issues. And then they switch to a private jet. It says remote control private jet. And Magneto decided to form this magnetic shield around himself while he's taking the missiles. And basically, the military is stumped. How do we break this magnetic shield? So Cyclops just volunteers the X-Men on the spot, and the military have no idea. But they initially believe him, not at first, but they do allow him to go in eventually. Says give him 15 minutes, and then first Cyclops decides to take on Inigreed, and Cyclops just goes in, just blasts at the shield with his optic blast. And then he takes off his visor and goes full force on the thing. Excuse me. And Magneto is like, what? Somebody's attacking my own power. He doesn't even know who's attacking him. So he fires the missiles, and they're all stopped by the X-Men. And Magneto, like a old-fashioned villain would do, he decided, well, he briefly fights the X-Men in this issue. Yeah, he briefly fights them, encapsulates Angel in a piece of metal, and he throws some rocket fuel at them, and he just gets away. Yep, he just leaves after he just defeated the X-Men. Will capture him. He just leaves, and now the military are very happy for them stopping Magneto, and they did it pretty quickly. They did it in less than 10 minutes, and they're very happy for what they did at Cape Citadel. And then the issue ends with them going back to the Xavier Institute, and that's that. When it comes to, and it ends like this, just them flying away. Now, what I think of this issue as a whole, this is a very great start for the series, and a great origin story. Well, not exactly how the team came together at first, but a nice early story. Now, it is explained by Stan Lee that the reason why he made mutants because he was just too lazy to come with their actual powers. So he decided, let's make a mutant. Now, they originally were going to be called the Merry Mutants. But the editor at the time said, no, that wouldn't make much sense. So he just came up with the X-Men. Now, you gotta love Jack the King Kirby's artwork. His artwork is great for this issue. And for this opening issue of the series, because it's so perfect, and a lot of people, anybody who reads this issue might think, some stuff is like a bit out of date, stuff like that. But it's an awesome issue. And interesting little fact, this issue came out the same month as Avengers #1. And I'm not talking about the Avengers #1 that came out, let's say, 2012 or 2010, or the two that came out in the 90s. No, I'm talking about the original #1 that came back in the 60s. This issue was released in September of 1963. That's when this issue was released. The same month. And from this issue, for the first 13 issues of the series is published on a bi-monthly basis, basically come out every couple months. So the next issue of the series does not come out until November of 1963. But still a great start, and I give this opening issue I give this issue a 10. It's a great issue. Perfect, and it's classic. Alright, stay tuned for the next X-Men Classics episode, where I cover issue number 2 of the series, where I reveal the debut of a villain that really not a lot of people know about. He's not a very well-known villain, but he is a classic X-villain, and he has also briefly joined X-Force. I will reveal who it is in the next episode. But until then, see you all on X-Men Classics episode 2, where I cover issue number 2 of the series. This is episode 1 of X-Men Classics. Till then, see you then. Bye.